In this video, we're going to be modifying the suspension on our SCX-10-3 base camp using these very simple shock keys. This is a trick that I've used in a bunch of my crawlers in order to help lower the center of gravity by lowering the overall truck a little bit, but not having to purchase brand new shocks or do a lot of expensive modifications. In RC crawling, the center of gravity of the vehicle is very important. Where is it front to rear, but then also how tall is it? The higher the center of gravity, the more prone the vehicle is to rolling over or to flipping backwards while you're climbing up things. Now, a lot of times you will see folks that spend pretty good chunks of money upgrading the total shock. Sometimes they may go to a shorter shock in order to help lower the whole vehicle, or maybe they actually put some internal limiters, things like that. What we're going to do here today is use these simple shock keys. We're going to mount them to the factory shock towers and then relocate where the shock is mounting itself. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to lean the rear ones forward and the front ones rearward. We're going to put them all towards the inside of the vehicle. That just will inherently drop the suspension and soften it overall. Before we do it, we're going to measure what the ride height is of the vehicle, and we're going to measure what kind of flex we have right now. Sometimes you'll give up just a little bit of flex when you do this, but overall the lower center of gravity will really be worth it for negligible weight and very, very small cost. With no battery in it, no body, we're just going to measure right here at the rear. It is 110 millimeters to the top of the rear bumper. And at the front to this point, we are at 120 millimeters. Measuring the total flex of the truck, picking up this rear wheel just until that front comes off the ground. We are looking at the edge of that lug at about 120 millimeters. And doing the same thing on the front. We come in with, yeah, basically about the same, about 120 millimeters, front and rear. The first place I'm going to test this is, you see I found two screws here that happen to line up. So you have to put two in here. These did not come with the kit with these shock mounts, and so you have to raid your screw bin, just like I did, in order to get those. Put those two in there with the shock key sitting basically horizontal, and I put the shock right back into the almost the next to last hole on each side. We're already down noticeably, but look, we still have plenty of suspension travel really overall for the vehicle. Lots and lots of suspension travel, lots of movement. So it's looking really good, but yet we've dropped the whole rear of the vehicle down for a very minimal cost. Let's move on to the front. Again, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to be moving this to the rear and letting that drop down, seeing what that looks like. For the front here, you will see, again, it's roughly the same thing. Shock key is almost horizontally back. I tried a few different holes here before I actually am on the fourth one back, and that's because the front being a little bit heavier, it sits pretty far down already. And if we went back any further, it was actually just sitting with no downward travel whatsoever. It's just sitting on the panhard link. Right now, it's actually just barely above it. So I'm going to be sitting in what some people actually call almost like a full droop setup, where I don't really have a lot of downward travel in the front, but just only in the rear. So we're going to test that. We're going to see how that goes. Looking here, about how much did we drop it? So if you remember, this started at 110 millimeters in the rear. We are now basically 10 millimeters under where we started before. So we've lost about 10 millimeters of ride height here, which is great. On the front, we were at 120, and now we are at about 115. So we went down 10 millimeters in the rear, 5 in the front. It's about all we can get out of it as it sits for almost $0. This before was 120 millimeters, and we've actually, according to this, we've actually gained a little bit. We're up to almost 130 now in the rear. And on the front, yeah, still about that 120, maybe a little bit above, maybe 125. So we gained somewhere between 10 and 5 millimeters of flex, which honestly this truck already has enough. I wasn't worried about it. I was actually going to be okay giving some up, but we actually gained a little bit. So truck center of gravity is lower, and we gained a little bit of flex overall. should be a good thing for it. Now, you know, when we do something like this, we gotta take it out and do a quick test drive, don't you? So I'm gonna get a battery, throw it in here, we can go out and see what this thing does.